Okay, so we're ready to take a look at some advanced selection techniques in Adobe Illustrator CS3. So the first thing we need to do is open up one of our project files here. So I'm just going to go File, Open, and make sure you're looking at your desktop and go into your Project Files folder. Inside the Part 1 folder, Lesson 1 folder, and there you will find SuperGuy Starburst. So go ahead and open up that file there. And here's our SuperGuy Starburst. And of course he's saying, now that's nifty, and hopefully you'll be saying the same thing by the end of this lesson, because the idea is to show you as many different advanced selection techniques as I can here. The first selection tool that we'll take a look at is Illustrator's Lasso Tool. And you'll find the Lasso Tool in your toolbox. Go ahead and grab them there. And to make best use of this tool, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. So I'm just going to hold down Control and Spacebar, or of course Command and Spacebar on the Mac. And the Lasso Tool, much like the Lasso Tool in Photoshop, allows me to create freehand selections. So here I'm just clicking and dragging a loop with the Lasso Tool. Single click to deselect there. Try that again. I'm just going to click and drag around some different objects here, and a starburst like this is a perfect example of where you might want to use a tool like this. It's really handy in areas that are loaded full of tiny little shapes or tiny little intricate objects, this sort of thing. So there we go. So it's just a freehand tool, that's all it is. Now let me throw a couple of other things at you here. First of all, single click to deselect, no big deal. Try this. I'm going to make some kind of a selection here, just freehand selection. And on one of my stars here, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to circle the entire star. I'm just going to grab one of the tips of one of the stars. And what happens here, if you know about paths and anchor points in Illustrator, you would know that a filled-in anchor point, I'll zoom in here even closer, again, Control Spacebar, Command Spacebar on the Mac, you'll know that a filled-in anchor point is a selected anchor point. So all of the anchor points on this object are filled in. That means the entire object is selected. On this second star here, only the bottom anchor point is filled in. That means only that anchor point is selected. Now let me show you some neat things that we could do here. I'll grab my white arrow tool, and now if I begin clicking and dragging, only the selected anchor points move. I'm just going to do a couple of undos there. So think of the Lasso tool as sort of the little brother of the white arrow tool. So it works in the same way, where it only selects anchor points that I actually encompass. Okay? So that's the first thing that you can do with your Lasso tool. I'll just zoom out a little bit here. I'm just using Control minus or Command minus on the Mac. Here's something else. I'll make a selection here. Very lovely. And now I want to add more objects to this selection here. And to do so, I'm just going to hold down my Shift key, and you'll notice a little plus sign up here beside my cursor. That means I can add additional objects to my selection. So Shift will add to a selection. You might know this again from Photoshop. And if you know your Photoshop stuff, you would also know that Alt or Option subtracts from a selection. So you can see the little minus sign beside my cursor there. And now I can just draw a freehand loop around one of my objects here to deselect it. Or of course, just draw a freehand loop around some of the selected anchor points to deselect them. And you already saw what happened when I had my white arrow tool selected to manipulate my objects. Check this out. I'm going to hold down Shift and grab the rest of my anchor points here in this star. So I have this star selected, this guy over here, and this third one over here. I can grab my black arrow tool. I can scale them all as a group here. I'm just holding down Shift and dragging on the bottom corner here. I can, of course, rotate them, delete them, do any number of items that I can normally do to regularly selected shapes. So I'm just going to undo by pressing Ctrl-Z or Command-Z on the Mac. And that's about it for the Lasso tool. Pretty simple stuff.